Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an evidence-based medical blueprint built specifically for midlife women. We'll be digging directly into some truly eye-opening medical source material to understand the massive shifts happening in female biology after 35. And we're going to kick things off with a pretty fundamental question you might actually be asking yourself right now. Okay, let's get right into it. If you're over 35, you might be dealing with this persistent, heavy exhaustion. Maybe you're struggling with unexpected brain fog or just generally feeling like your biology is changing in ways you completely cannot control. Well, you aren't imagining things. The sources we're looking at today validate that these shifts are profound. They are biological, and they are entirely real.
There's a quote from our source material that just hits the nail on the head when it comes to midlife burnout. It says, "You have been carrying everyone else, and your vagus misses you." Now, your vagus nerve is a huge part of your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest side of things. The data shows that after decades of carrying the mental and physical loads for everyone else, the female nervous system is deeply, deeply paying the price. And that fundamentally alters your hormones.
Get this. Right now, an incredible 1 in 4 women over 40 is prescribed an antidepressant. It's a staggering statistic. But here is the truly shocking part highlighted in our sources. In the vast majority of these cases, nobody checked their hormones first. They were just handed a pill to manage a mood symptom. The underlying biological shift? Completely ignored.
This brings us to a massive systemic issue known in the research as the vulva gap. It essentially defines the systemic void in gender-specific medical research, because historically, standard medical trials focused heavily on male biology, leaving a huge lack of targeted medical care for women over 35. So what you should take away from this is that your symptoms, they're very real, but traditional medicine just hasn't researched them enough.
Let's look at Section 1, Medicine's Midlife Blind Spot.
Picture this. You go to a traditional doctor with brain fog, muscle loss, insomnia, maybe some mood changes. Traditional medicine usually tries to mask these symptoms individually, right? You get a sleeping pill for the insomnia, an antidepressant for the mood, but notice the glaring omission here. No one actually asks about your hormones. Standard care routinely fails to look at the hormonal root cause that's connecting all of these seemingly distinct symptoms together.
Moving right along to Section 2, The Truth About Hormones.
There's a night and day difference in the standard of care here. When standard treatments actually do address hormones, they generally rely on a one-size-fits-all hormone replacement therapy. But the evidence makes it crystal clear. Female biology is incredibly complex. Targeted midlife treatment doesn't mean just getting any hormones. It requires evidence-based, highly precise, and personalized hormone protocols if you want it to actually be effective.
Here's a hidden reality that's honestly a bit shocking. The research notes that most women over 40 who are prescribed progesterone are actually taking the wrong form of it. Without proper testing and targeted adjustments, taking the wrong form of nightly progesterone is essentially running an uncontrolled science experiment on your own body. It can actually cause grogginess, weight resistance, and mood instability, literally the exact things you're trying to fix.
Which leads us right into Section 3, Protecting the Midlife Brain. We've all been there, right? The dreaded 3 a.m. wake-up. You might fall asleep perfectly fine, but bam! At 3 a.m., dropping hormones trigger a massive cortisol spike. Your body is basically sounding a biological fire alarm. And this isn't just an annoyance. The sources warn there's a hidden dementia risk hiding behind this chronic sleep disruption, especially when we try to slap a Band-Aid on it with standard quick fixes like Ambien, instead of fixing the hormonal drop that's actually causing the wake-up. To actually protect your cognitive future, you need hard data. And I'm talking about specific blood tests for brain aging that your standard doctor probably isn't even ordering. For example, knowing your APOE4 status, which is a gene linked to Alzheimer's risk, that single piece of information can drastically alter how you should be managing your midlife health, your diet, and your hormone replacement strategies right now.
Now, to actively combat these cognitive and physical risks, the medical field is exploring some fascinating new frontiers. The FDA is currently reopening the door on a category of therapeutics called peptides. Think of peptides, which are just short chains of amino acids, as cutting-edge signaling molecules. They literally tell your body's cells exactly what to do, acting as incredibly powerful tools to protect the midlife body and brain. The data actually points to a highly specific, evidence-based framework for these peptides. For instance, Cmax is an absolute game changer for protecting the midlife brain from decline. Then you have BPC-157, which actively heals tissue and fights systemic inflammation. And finally, retatrutide is being researched because it offers revolutionary new metabolic pathways to combat that stubborn weight resistance. It's an incredibly targeted approach to your biology.
All right, Section 4, biohacking for female bodies.
You know all those trendy biohacks, standard intermittent fasting, extreme sauna sessions? Well, those were heavily researched and designed for men. If a woman over 35 tries to follow those exact same male-centric protocols, she risks what the sources call a destructive cortisol tax. The female body perceives that extreme stress as a threat, so it shuts down hormone production and starts hoarding fat. Women absolutely must adjust these protocols to sync up with their unique biological rhythms.
And it's not just the extreme stuff. Even your daily habits need a second look. A simple after-dinner walk is widely known as a fantastic metabolic prescription to lower blood sugar. But surprisingly, you might actually be taking a walk wrong. To optimize it for midlife female biology, it has to be timed specifically to blunt insulin spikes without raising your evening cortisol levels. It's those small tweaks that make all the difference.
Bringing it all together, let's hit Section 5, your new health blueprint.
If you want to truly reclaim your physical body, the sources lay out some very clear directives. First, you've got to actively follow resistance protocols to stop the rapid muscle loss that hits in midlife. Second, you have to recognize that sexual health after 35 requires modifications and proper hormonal support. The female body just wasn't designed for it otherwise. And third, ignore those expensive marketing gimmicks like the 3-day miracle skin laser. They completely ignore the internal hormonal drivers of skin aging.
Now, taking control doesn't mean you need to completely upend your life. The data reveals a pretty monumental shift. By adding just 11 more minutes of quality sleep and tossing just one more vegetable into your daily diet, you can yield a massive 10% drop in your risk of a heart attack. It's the consistency of those tiny habits that ultimately changes your biology.
Building on that exact idea, the source material actually outlines 15 specific, tiny tweaks every woman should consider. We're not talking massive lifestyle overhauls here. These are targeted, evidence-based adjustments, like optimizing your evening lighting or dialing in the timing of your protein intake. They offer a clear, step-by-step path, meaning you have the power to actively start remaking your health by this coming Friday.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you've seen the data, and you know about these massive systemic gaps in traditional medicine, you have a choice to make. Will you keep accepting a standard of care and a wellness blueprint that was quite literally built for someone else's biology? Or will you use this evidence to step up, ask the right questions, and build your own targeted midlife blueprint? The power and the science is entirely in your hands.